I'm delighted to be joined by Jim Dreaper. How are you, Jim?
I'm fine, thanks. Good order.
Good. It's good to be back here again. It's a long time since I was first rode racehorses here. A good 20 years ago, I think it was now, when I was 15.
At least that, yes.
Things haven't really changed. You're still working hard?
Still enjoy it. Although these people that say that I enjoy every minute of it. No trainer that trains for more than a month enjoys every minute of it, because there are a lot of things that go wrong. And there are great days when you win, but there are a lot of things that go wrong. Anyway, still trying to work away at the good days.
Good. Your father, you were obviously born here. Your father moved here when he was young. He was born in 1898. Just up the road when his parents bought this farm in Greenogue, and when he started training then he had his first good horse was Prince Regent, who won an Irish National in 42 and won a Cheltenham Gold Cup in 46. Tell us a little bit about your dad. What are the good things that you remember that people don't? Obviously people remember him for Arkle and Flyingbolt, but
the good things, he was a great, well, he was then he was he was 50. What age was he? He was 50 when I was born. So as I grew older, he was an older man. And I was also away at boarding school from the time I was 6 until I was 17. Okay. So basically for 9 months of every year I was out of the way, which probably helped him. But so I wouldn't have spent an awful lot of time with him. And then, but fortunately had 6 or 8 great years after I left school. And he was here, he in an advisory capacity when I took over the licence, never pushed. He'd never say you did something wrong. He'd say, would you do it like that the next time?
Okay.
You know, he was that kind of man. And but very, very with the horses, most racing people know, very patient man. I think his motto was, he never said it in as many words, that horses win in spite of people, not because of people. But meaning that feed them, have them fit, have them healthy, give them time, which he was famous for, and then either they can or they can't.
And things have changed now. People don't give horses much time. There's a lot more pressure on trainers now than there was then. Absolutely.
The pace of life in general has changed hugely. Pressure. The expense of it all. I can understand people. It's a seriously expensive occupation, owning a racehorse, and people want returns. I can understand that, but sometimes rushing at it, you might win 2 races or 3 races in their first season, and perhaps maybe not win 2 or 3 more in the next 5 years. Whereas if you'd missed out that first season, it might have turned out differently. But hindsight's a wonderful thing.
It surely is. And he trained so many good horses. Like I said, Prince Regent was the first real good one to come along, giving him his first Irish National and a Gold Cup. Prince Regent's funny, his dam was a full sister to a horse who actually won a couple of July Cups, which is strange, isn't it, for a horse that would go on to win a National and a Gold Cup.
Absolutely, yeah. Those things come out in breeding. I mean, in modern, it's not that modern now. Red Rum was a great example. Started off as a 2-year-old, racing as a 2-year-old, one as a 2-year-old, I think, and then see what he was able to do.
Yeah.
You know, if they have the ability, if it's in them,
they'll do it.
You have a great chance.
He trained grey horses like Fortria as well, who was an incredible horse. He won 2 champion chases in the early 60s. He won an Irish National as well in 61. And Duchess of Minister came along then. She had very good horses like Cashel View, Ben Stack, Sea Brief, and then of course the great Arkle came along. What do you remember of Arkle?
I remember I was away at school most of the time, but I was very aware that he was, when he became the great horse of the time. This was a different time. This was before there were mobile phones and very little television and so forth. And I was away in boarding school with one of the masters, the man who taught us history and geography, was a great racing man. And he used to keep us filled in, myself and there were a couple of other racing people there. Arthur Moore was there at the time at the school, and he used to tell us what was happening and what wasn't happening. So what I remember about him was he was a very placid, very quiet horse. I'd say you'd call him a poser now. I think even when he went to the race on race day, he'd walk around the ring very slowly, as much to say, "Look at me."
Okay.
And proper horse, serious horse.
His name came about a mountain. That's what he was named after.
Yes. There were 3 in the old Bowlesbridge sales across the road from the RDS, where the Goffs were at the time. There were 3 yearlings bought at one sale, and they turned out to be Arkle, Ben Stack, and Foynaven.
Bloody hell!
Amazing. They were named after 3 mountains on the Westminster estate, which is way up northwest
in
Scotland.
Sutherland.
Sutherland, way up. They were named after 3 mountains, And there you are. Well, Arkle was himself. Ben Stack was a 2 mile champion chaser. Foyne won a national. Racing people know how he won a national. But at the start, I think the lads here, I used to hear them talking afterwards, and my father told me he looked the most promising. I mean, Arkle as a young horse was, he was very ordinary, nothing. Won what was then called an upside down handicap hurdle, basically an 80 to 95, and then just progressed. But fortunately, he was owned by a lady that, more correctly, trained by a man who wouldn't listen if an owner told them.
Okay.
Those times you could do that, and he wasn't that upset that things didn't happen in the first year, the 4 to 5 year old year, and then gradually it happened.
And what do you think? Do you believe that was the reason what you said about your father was just time that helped Arkle?
It absolutely helped Arkle. I mean, perhaps if he was in a different place owned by different people, they might have accepted, oh look, this is just an ordinary screw of a horse, we'll run him every couple of weeks. Because he's no good. Which he wasn't at the start, he just showed nothing. And then he just got stronger and better, and he turned out to be what we all know. So yes, it definitely had a bearing on how he turned out, because he would have had a lot more racing as a youngster, I think, in someone else's hands.
And in 1963, he ran in the Hennessy at Newbury, where he was getting £5 from Millhouse and was beaten by Millhouse.
Yes.
But when it came to 1964, when he took him on in Cheltenham Gold Cup, that's where the real Arkle came about then.
Yes, absolutely. I was at school that time, but the schoolmaster, actually father of a racing journalist,
of Alan Sweetman.
Yes. And he filled us in on all the build-up. And I think I'm right in saying it was run on a Saturday.
Okay.
That year. And I watched it, I can't remember where, not at the school. I watched it somewhere on an old black and white grainy television. And, well, the rest is history. It was a great day.
We'll get a look at that.
It's Millhouse on the inside, jumps it only just ahead of Arkle. Now they're rounding the home turn, and this is it. And Willie Robinson's got his whip out, and Pat Taff is shaking up Arkle. And this is the race now to the last fence. It's Arkle on the stand side for Ireland and Millhouse for England on the far side. And this is it with Arkle just taking the lead as they come to the last fence. It's going to be Arkle if he jumps it. Arkle coming to the last now, and Arkle a length clear of Millhouse. He's over and clear. Millhouse is trying to challenge him again, but it's Arkle on the stand side. Millhouse over on the far side, coming up towards the line, and Arkle is holding him. Arkle going away now from Millhouse. This is the champion. This is the best we've seen for a long time. Arkle is the winner of the Gold Cup. Millhouse is second.
As we've seen there in his first Gold Cup, like you said, you've seen in that black and white when you were back in school, and he went on then to win 2 more Cheltenham Gold Cups, and he won an Irish National carrying a massive weight of I think 12.5 stone.
Yes.
You wouldn't see a horse do that now.
No, because they don't need to be asked to do it now.
Because of graded races.
There's a great programme of races for the good horses, where they might have to concede a small 6 or 8 or 10 pound penalty, concede a bit of weight to the mares. But those top horses, they will never be asked to give. Well, of course, the top weight is reduced now; it's all below 12 stone, and it just wouldn't arise now. No need to subject them to that.
And another fantastic horse that came along in this time as well was Flyingbolt.
Yes.
And people always argue who was better.
Yeah.
His sire, Airborne, who won in Epsom Derby, was incapable of breeding, and was given away to a small stud, thrown in as a companion to a barren mare, 19 years of age, and along came a chestnut foal a year later then.
Yes.
It's an incredible story, isn't it?
It is, absolutely. Totally by accident.
Yeah.
Totally by accident. Yeah.
And Liam McLaughlin, Dermot McLaughlin's late father, who Dermot rode plenty of winners here for you, worked for you a long time, he won on both horses.
Yes.
Who in your eyes was better, or who did your father believe was a better horse between Flyingbolt and Arkle?
Well, going back a step, it took him years. Arkle had to do a lot before my father would accept that possibly he was a better horse than Prince Regent had been.
Okay.
And but then at their peak, there was very little in it. Even the Irish handicapper at the time had only £1. But I think between them, he had Arkle £1 ahead. But I think privately he would have told my father, that's as it is because of who Arkle is. But the handicapper thought he didn't actually know. And some of the things, well, of course, Flyingbolt did the same trick in the Irish National, huge weight. And
did he beat the same mare that Arkle
beat? A mare called Height of Fashion.
That's the one.
Yeah, 12 7. Did they have 12-7 and
both carried
height of fashion
12-7.
below 10 stone? And she was able to win an Irish national, I think, with top weight in another year.
It's incredible.
You know, she all of a sudden was the 12 stone. So they were two exceptional horses. I would say, I believe Pat Taff, I think it's true to say, in heavy ground, he wasn't sure which he'd have ridden.
Okay.
You know, in other words, he wasn't quite sure which would win in heavy ground. But and also Flyingbolt did. He was a top class 2 miler.
Yeah.
And won a He won in Cheltenham one day and turned out the next day and finished third, beating a couple of lengths in a champion hurdle.
It's incredible. It'll never be seen nowadays.
No, they wouldn't be asked to do it.
No.
They wouldn't be asked to do it. But he was possibly a quicker horse. More speed from a 2 mile point of view. But no, they were great horses. Now, there are plenty of great horses, and we're all lucky to see them nowadays, but they will never be asked to concede those weights. The last man that used to pitch them in nearly anywhere and everywhere, pitch his star, was David Ellsworth. Desi Lockett.
Yeah.
You know, it seemed to me every 3 weeks he ran, whatever the race was. It didn't matter what the weight was, that's what he's running, and 3 weeks later, if he's sound, he'll go there.
We'll get a look at him winning the 1965 Massey Ferguson Gold Cup.
Fence now, and it's Flyingbolt, well clear of Scottish Memories and Salvina. It's only got to jump it. He's a long way clear in the Massey Ferguson, the top weight. Flyingbolt coming to it. Here's Prick. He's up over and striding away from it. Second, just jumping it now. It's Scottish Memories. Then comes Salvina. Salvina out jumps Scottish Memories and that one, and racing up towards the line. Flyingbolt going away to win in great style this Massey Ferguson. It's going to be a very near thing for second place, but at the line, Flyingbolt is the winner, and it's a near thing for second place between Salvina on the inside, Scottish Memories on the far side, and then at the line, Salvina is just second, Scottish Memories.
Very tough horse, but like you said, Arkle was laid back and Flyingbolt would go for you.
Yeah. We myself and my sisters would have been out in the yard when we were young at that time, and we were always told, well, basically, don't let Arkle out of the stable, but you can go and talk to him if you wish, but do not go near Flyingbolt.
It's incredible, isn't it?
Yes.
2 different horses.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yes, absolutely.
I think it was called the Gloucester Hurdle back then in '64 that he won. Yes. He won an Irish champion hurdle. The Gloucester Hurdle is what is now the Supreme Novices Hurdle, which is on Tuesday. He won a Thyestes in '66 and then went back to win a champion chase in '66. Yes. And like you mentioned, the next day he finished third in a champion hurdle. Yes. Like to win a Thyestes over 3 mile in Gorham Park and then to go win a champion chase, it's unheard of stuff, isn't it?
I think it is. And won't be repeated.
No.
Because people don't need, sorry, I keep saying this, people don't need to do it anymore. You don't need to do it.
Yeah.
You have good horses because you have other places to go. Amazing stuff. But then, because there's, my father had marvellous proper horses, but there was, Fortria was a 2 mile champion chaser. Mm-hmm. And he won an Irish national.
He has a race named after him now.
Yes, he was a good horse. But they were good horses, other people were good horses at the same time, but they weren't as good.
Yeah. In 1971, you rode for your dad in the English National. He'd been beaten the year previous with a horse called Vulture in the 1970 Entry National. So we get a look at this.
Here's Bogino, then comes Specify making ground with Asprey and 2 Springs. This is the final fence now. It's Sandy Sprite. Sandy Sprite over in the lead from Bogino, jumps in second. Black Secret jumps in third. Then comes Specify and then Asprey, and they're racing to the final 250 yards now. And it's Black Secret coming to challenge Sandy Sprite, and Specify putting in a tremendous run over on the far side with Bogino. They're inside the final furlong now. Black Secret coming to challenge with Specify on the far side. Sandy Sprite in between the two. It's Johnny Cook getting up on Specify. The Fred Fontaine colours going ahead, but Black Secret just holding him. It's Specify and Black Secret. Specify is just going to win it. At the line, Specify is the winner. Black Secret.
So obviously that was heartbreak. It was the one race that has eluded yourself and your father is the Entry National.
Well, what I remember of it, I was delighted. I remember being in the parade ring before it now, and there were a lot of other places I nearly preferred to be, because the tension in the weigh room, was whatever age I was, 19. The Lord Derby, I think it was, came in with the bowler hat, and there was whoever was there, Terry Biddlecombe and Stan Miller and Pat Taff and all the senior jockeys, all laughing and joking. Anyway, in those days, the senior steward used to come in and say, "Look, jockeys, take your time down to the first." And all of a sudden, a silence descended on the whole place. And it got a bit, and then when I went out, when you get up and you're not sure the stirrups the same length and everything, and the preliminaries, the parade, and it seemed to go on forever. But once it got going, it was fine. But one memory I had of it, there was a man, an Irish champion jockey, the late Bobby Coonan. I think, I'm not sure who he was on, one of the Doyle family, the red and blue colours from Kildare. He was beside me going out with the circuit to go, and I was pushing for all I was worth, because let's say it was a slow stare, and Bobby looked across at me and said, "For God's sake, pull up, you'll get killed."
Good job he didn't.
Exactly.
And how much bigger were those fences back then in the 70s compared to now?
I'm not sure they were much taller, but they were straight up.
Okay.
Not square, well, almost square.
Yeah.
Whereas nowadays they have aprons on them, and the beachers, there's not nearly as much of a drop as there used to be. It's much easier to get round now. You know, and that might affect you, or it might affect something falling in front of you. And I damn nearly fell off at the little fence before the canal turn. There was a hole in it where something had ploughed through it the first time, and myself and I'm not sure who else were going to the fence, and both horses said, "This is grand, we'll go for the small one."
Go for the gap.
We banged into it, and I was now hanging off for a few strides. But anyway, there are lots of things happening in the national.
And obviously your father was obviously very ambitious and whatever. Did that bother him that he was never able to win an English national, or did he take things like that well?
No. He wouldn't have been a great man for DVDs or playing races back. Tomorrow, move on.
And keep going forward.
Yeah,
that's a good way to be.
Whatever happens.
Yeah. The following January then in 1972, you took over the licence from your father.
Yes.
I know you're very modest in terms of you took on the staff, you took on the horses, you had the facilities, but you were champion trainer for the first 5 seasons of starting in 72, and I think you trained your first winner the day after taking the licence over.
That's right. Yeah, technicality. In those days, the licences changed on the 1st of January, and we had a runner in Sandown, of all places, and a horse called Straight Fort, and he went over and he won. So technically, he was the first winner in my name. But you see, I was champion trainer for whatever number of years it was. When my father was still around, the whole team was still around out there. These were lads with a lifetime in racing. They knew more about it than I did.
Yeah.
And there were good horses there, and like when you have it's a team game. You know, you need everything going to the lads. The head man, Paddy Murray, was a great help in those days, and the farrier, everyone. It's a team game.
You know Fairyhouse so well. Your father trained 10 Irish national winners, which is incredible that 10 different horses won the Irish national for your dad. So I'm sure you probably got used to heading down there on Easter Monday and it being a bit of a formality for yourselves.
Only a matter of getting tidied up and go over and somebody win.
And win the national.
Yeah, year after year. And then I don't remember how I felt the first year. One of them didn't win, but anyway, that's what happened. Yeah. It was amazing.
In 1974 then, Cool Bridge came along and you won your first Irish national, your first of 4 then.
Yes.
And was he fancied on the day?
Oh yes, he was a half brother to Arkle.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Half brother to Arkle. Got a bit of my father thought when he was a young horse might have been a proper horse, a real horse, and then he got leg trouble, damaged the tendon, went in the old Dundalk, grass obviously in those days, and he just was never as good again. And my father used to be getting me to. He's a great mathematician. Part of his job before he started training horses was selling cattle in Dublin, at the cattle market. And he'd be able to add up lines of figures without any computers, any mobile phone, anything. And he had this thing about pin firing horses for tendons. He said if it reduces a horse's stride by, let's say, 6 inches,
okay,
how many more strides would he need to use in a mile than he would have previously? He had that feeling that it just took a bit of pace, not the engine would be fine, but just a bit of stretch. Yeah, a bit of stretch out of them. The pin firing did the job and continues to do the job to keep horses racing, but made them not quite as athletic or able to stretch the way they used to. Anyway, he was a good horse. A chap called Eddie Wright rode him, and then we came to Brown Lad, who was a proper horse. He was a made horse when he came here. Great trainer down in Kildare. Joe Osborne trained him, and then he sold him to an American lady, and the horse came here. But he was ready made. I think he was a horse got plenty of time. I think he won Ted Walsh won a bumper on him. I think he was a 6-year-old in Dundalk maybe, and then he won in Cheltenham, won the equivalent of the Supreme. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was the longer one. I don't know. And then he came to us.
Or the Stair Turtle.
Yeah, and then it wasn't straightforward. He wasn't a natural jumper. Didn't attack his fences, with the result that we got into it. The first year he won the Irish National. He's a small weight. Tommy Carberry was riding that time for us, the great Tommy, and
he carried 10 stone too that year. Yeah.
And then I think he won it the next year, and with plenty of weight. And then he got a bit of confidence in the jump.
What was the reason for the break in 77?
He had a bit of leg trouble.
Okay.
Leg trouble, yeah.
And then to come back and win it again was a
Yes.
massive achievement then,
Yes.
carrying top weight again.
Absolutely. Ridden by a local chap working in the Arkle, Jerry Dowd, who would have ridden him plenty of years home. I think Tommy had to ride maybe Lescargo.
This was your Cheltenham Gold Cup winner with 10 up in 75 as well, which was a great year for you.
Yes. That was brutal ground. Really, I think in England, they'd hardly run on it now.
Okay.
I think they might here in Ireland, but it was. He was brave there at the last. I mean, they were all wrong, and he was the one that picked up and jumped it.
And he went on then.
Yeah, he went on. And I would say, I don't think he was ever as good again.
No?
No.
And was never quite the same again. The lads who rode him always felt that he'd be going along fine in a race, and then just when pressure come on, they'd nearly feel him kind of freezing. Just not stopping but hesitating. The jockey would get a different feel, and I would say it was just the horse's internal system telling him, look, I'm going to burst again here, I can't do this. But he never up to that level again.
Okay. After that, you had so many good horses, but just to go through some of the familiar ones to people. Carvel's Hill came along in 87. He won an Irish Gold Cup for you. He fell in the Cheltenham Gold Cup that Desert Arkle won in 89. He was a very good horse.
Carvel's Hill was a pain in the neck, in as much not his fault. We never, as long as we had him, we never got him that you could depend on him to jump a clear round. We tried everything, and he had chiropractors and so forth, all regularly looking at him, but he wasn't just a natural jumper. It's a nightmare for the jockeys to ride because you go down to a fence and God alone knows what he'd do. But from early on, we found that even you'd be trotting round over a little circle of telephone poles. If the jockey sat quiet, Carvel's Hill would rather go round it than jump it.
Go away.
Yeah. He wouldn't actually refuse, but I'd say there was something hurting him somewhere, and we never got it right. And okay, he went over to Mr. Pipe, which is no problem, because the man, Paul Green, who had bought him, said, listen, do the best you can. If it works out, you'll keep him. If it doesn't, I'll move him over to Martin. That was fine, absolutely no problem. His last race was the Tiestes in Goran. Ken Morgan, I think, may have been injured and got Conor O'Dwyer to ride him. And I said, Conor, you know what about this fella? He's not perfect. But whatever he'll do, if he's wrong, he'll go left.
Yeah. Always
went to the left. So down to the first fence, and he goes sharply to the right. Plowed it through it. And Conor, the horse fell, and Conor came off, and absolutely no fault of his. But we never got him right now. Marvellous engine. Not that quick a horse, but on heavy ground now he'd keep going. In those days, this was before sand gallops and all weathers, we used to use stubble fields. And there was one, our neighbour used to let us in, and there was one down there, and on a so-called work morning, the horse would be saying, okay lads, we're going maybe 3.5 of this. It was about a 20-acre field. 3.5 rounds here. As soon as anything is tired, let them stop.
Okay.
And the lads would have known the format, and it'd be married man's pace now, it wouldn't be racing pace, but deep ground. And a few days down there doing that, he'd have been, whoever the hell would have been riding him, he'd have been there. And as the circles went on, lads would pull up, and whatever the good horses were at the time, would be still going. And every time, for a couple of weeks, look behind, your man was still there.
Carvel's Hill.
Yeah, right behind them. Yeah. No, that was in deep ground.
Yeah.
He was great engine, great cruising, a good cruising speed, but no actual turn of foot.
Okay. And he only had 3 runs for Martin Pipe then?
Well, he won the Welsh National. Didn't have a clear round in it. He bunny hopped the last, I think, which didn't surprise us, but great performance. He won it, and then the Gold Cup was a fiasco. Tactics were employed to get him beat, but I don't think he'd have won anyway.
No,
because the ground was quick.
Yeah, okay. He needed that heavy ground.
He needed the heavy ground, and I think he felt even less comfortable jumping when the ground was quick. Not, when they're jumping out of heavy ground, it's a bit easier to do.
Yeah.
Okay, it makes each fence, if you're sinking in 3 inches or 4 inches before each fence, basically makes that fence 4 inches higher. But at least you're landing on something quite soft. But because it was the Gold Cup, because it was favourite, I can understand why they did it. He ran, and he was favourite and entitled to be on his best form, but it just didn't work. I don't think he ever ran again, did he?
No, not after that.
No, I think he hurt his leg in that race. But a proper horse now. Proper horse, yeah.
In 93, a horse called Marygale came along. In 95, he was 4th behind Master Oates in the Cheltenham Gold Cup. He won the Martel Gold Cup in Aintree. He pulled up in the 96 running of the King George in Sandown, which was ran in January, which was won by one man. I'll go back to that in a second. But after that, after pulling up in that race, he won 7 more times for it. Yes. He was an exceptional horse. Why was the King George ran in January?
It was frosted off.
Oh, okay.
So Kempton was off on the day, and he was actually there. He was there, but it was frosted off, and so they came back to Sandown, and he burst a blood vessel.
Okay. Graham Bradley rode him.
Did he? Ran poorly, yeah. Graham Bradley rode him the Gold Cup. This was a horse struggled to get 3 miles, and from my memory, he'll ring me up now if he hears this or reads this and tell me I'm wrong. From my memory, he took it up at a circuit to go.
Really?
Yeah. And the Brad was a marvellous jockey, but he had his own tactics, and he finished walking now. He walked up the hill, and 3 weeks later, great man, died about a year, a man, great sportsman, Herb Stanley, from a Canadian man living over in Loughrea in Galway, said, come on, we'll go to Liverpool, we'll go anyway, bring him. And he ran at the Martel, which was the kind of the grade 1 3 mile race at the meeting, where a lot of the Gold Cup winners or failures, whatever, pitch out again.
He was very impressive when he won that.
He was very impressive.
Yeah.
But he was that far back with a round to go. It was the total different ride.
Opposite for what he'd done.
Absolutely. Amazing. I said, this horse has no chance. Came steaming through and won easy.
Very easy.
And I don't know. He listen, I'm not saying he'd have ever won that Gold Cup, but ridden differently, he'd have been closer to it. But no, he was a horse that taught me something that I didn't know, still a lot I don't know. Used to look like the wrath of God, and he, okay through when he come in off grass, he'd look well, do well out in the land. First few months trotting, cantering, all that kind of crack through July and August. Well, July perhaps if they're too fat. August, September, then come on October when the work started, he'd go off his grub. Just when the hard work was starting, and maybe for a fortnight, I'd look the hair standing backwards on him, and he'd look and he wouldn't eat, and he'd growl at you and so forth. Then all of a sudden everything would be hunky-dory, you'd be happy out, and it turns out, I don't know, but I would swear now that he had ulcers. Okay. I didn't know at the time.
Yeah.
And now they tell us most horses have ulcers to some degree.
Yeah.
But he showed all the symptoms, attitude change, and you'd keep the paddock sheet on him now at the end of each season. You'd keep it on for as long as you could because he looked awful, light. Yeah. But he was able to run. He had a great heart, great engine. He had won 3. I think he won after having 3 wind operations.
Go away.
Yeah, over a period of time.
Yeah.
He was holiday before he ever ran.
Okay.
And then eventually, the 4th time he was done. He wasn't able, and he was retired, which was great. Nothing worse than seeing good horses, go around doing things that they used to do in their sleep. But I know he was a good horse, yeah.
We get a look at him winning.
Friends of Gerald as they race towards the final fence. Marygale, the leader, being chased by Tony Flame in the blue colours. Mudahims over on the far side, then Friends of Gerald. At the last, Marygale on the stand side. Over in front from Tony Flame on the far side, and Mudahim in 3, and Friends of Gerald 4 as they race into the closing stages. Marygale onto the stand rail. In the lead as they race up to the line, responding to pressure and going away to it in style. Up to the line, Marygale getting a great reception. Wins the Heineken for Kevin O'Brien.
Yeah, that was good. He came from Mr. Costello, the late great Tom Costello down in Newmarket and County Clare.
When I came here, I was 15 riding out on Saturday mornings, and I think one of the first horses I was put up on was an older Marygale. Yes. And he was a great old Spain, obviously one of the only few I could ride at the time. But you look back at the videos and you see how great of a horse he was, he was an incredible horse.
Absolutely.
Came along, Not Repair. He won a Frank Knight 3 mile grade 1 novice in Leopardstown. He won the Tri-Town. He won a Welsh National.
Yes.
Only a month after winning the Tri-Town in Navan, which is a fair achievement. He was second in the Hennessy in 09, and after that then he won the Punchestown Gold Cup. He was a very good horse for you, Not Repair.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, very good horse. I'd say just short of, he didn't get to, I don't think he ever ran the Gold Cup for us, just short of a gear to be a Gold Cup horse. He was kind of like a 160 horse.
Okay.
Whereas you need to be 170 plus to figure in the Gold Cup.
Okay.
In a heavy ground Gold Cup, he might have been third or fourth.
And when you were younger, riding for your father, a lot of jockeys have been through here riding for yourself. Who's the best jockey that's ever rode for you?
I'd say Tommy Carberry. I mean, to get things done. Law unto himself, as I believe Paul was.
Yeah.
You know, Mead said he'd be standing in the parade ring. Often said he'd be standing in the parade ring talking to Paul. And he might as well be talking to the Alsatian dog. Paul would have in his own mind what he was going to do. Yeah. All Paul needed to know was, is the horse fit? All Tommy needed to know was, is the horse fit? See, trainers prevent some jockeys winning races by giving them too many instructions. No one knows how a race is going to pan out. Once you need a man who can think on his, I was going to say on his feet, think on the horse and change, adapt.
Yeah.
You know, if it needs to be a bit of pace injected, go and do it.
And that's what Tommy was good at.
Well, Tommy, yeah, but equally, a man in that situation needs to know the horse he has. Some horses are better held up, that's fine. But if you have one that's maybe a bit short of pace but guaranteed to stay it, and that you think they're going too slow, go and do it. The horse is good enough, he'll win.
And before I let you go, what does the future ahead for Jim Draper hold? Just keep training and do what you enjoy doing?
Oh, absolutely. Thomas is very, very, very involved now. I'm nearly only the gopher now, and go for this and go for that. But we put our heads together occasionally. We don't always come up with the same answer, but we're doing the best we can. Try and have them
Two
fit.
heads are better than one?
Well, sometimes, yeah. If they come up with the same answer. But it goes back to the old theory. If you have them fit and healthy, either they can or they can't. No, there's more to it than that. You have to choose the right races to go for and all that kind of crack. But no, it wouldn't. The basics of it haven't changed that much. It's about ability of the horse, and the trainer. It's up to him to allow the horse to be what he can be.
That's great, Jim. Thanks very much, and best luck for the future.
Thank you. You're welcome.